For a skilled worker, extra wages meant just enough to gain a little higher social standing.
We thought ourselves respectable working class. We were a bit above the labouring class who lived in the poorer districts of the town. Not that you'd look down on them in any shape or form. In fact, the only people you'd look down on was the people who used to drink and neglect their family. We were taught to make the best use of every halfpenny or penny that came into the house. My mother had it ingrained in her, and we had it ingrained in us.
This cottage was lived in by a pitman's family. His wages would have been high enough to feed and clothe the family properly, and possibly even to save a little. The semi-skilled or unskilled workmen might aspire to respectability, but it was much more difficult to maintain on their income. The average wage of just over £1 a week might provide adequately for a single man or a newly married couple, but could cause serious hardship in families. They often found it impossible to maintain an adequate standard of food and clothing.
The great bulk of this enormous mass of people are underfed, underhoused and insufficiently clothed. The children among them suffer more than the adults. Their growth is stunted, their mental powers are cramped, and their health is undermined.
Surveys showed that almost 1/3 of the working classes were living in desperate poverty, their low wages failing to keep pace with the rising cost of living. Their existence was made even more precarious by the constant threat of ill health and unemployment. For these people, there was no golden age. Questions were now beginning to be asked. Didn't the poverty-stricken masses have a better call on the resources of the country? Could the country afford the empire and the fleet which held it together? If it was a question of priorities, what should come first? Britain in 1900 was still the major workshop of the world. Cotton, coal, shipbuilding, iron and steel, the same old industries which had built up Britain's position in the early 19th century, were the basis of this success and exported all over the world. Fears of change were scorned.
The American bicycle was driven off the market. The American boot has lost its hold. The British clock has recaptured its market. The motor trade has grown up and is pushing sales abroad. Textiles, coal, iron and steel are more prosperous than ever before.
But there were signs for concern. As early as the 1890s, both Germany and the United States exceeded Britain's steel production. And although Britain's rate of economic growth was faster than ever, it could not prevent her being overtaken by countries with greater natural resources.